Why is it that every great civilization, no matter how powerful, how brilliant, how unstoppable, eventually shatters? Why do societies fall not at their weakest, but at their strongest? At the very moment their monuments touch the sky, when their armies rule continents, when their culture shapes the imagination of the world, that's when the ground beneath them begins to crack. It happened to the Romans, to the Maya, to the Tang dynasty, to the Ottomans, to the empires of Mesopotamia, Persia, Mali, and countless others. The rise is predictable. But the collapse? That's the part that's always quieter than we think, stranger than we expect, and, if we're honest, disturbingly familiar. Today we'll explore why civilizations collapse at their peak, and why the patterns they left behind might be whispering a warning to us right now. 1. Rome, the empire that forgot how to see the end. Imagine walking through Rome in the 2nd century CE. Marble everywhere. Crowded markets, scholarships, libraries, aqueducts, medicine, law, things the world wouldn't see again for more than 1,000 years. If you asked a Roman citizen whether Rome could ever fall, they'd laugh. Fall? Rome? Impossible. And yet, the collapse had already begun. Not from a single moment, but from a silent drift. Internal rivalries, military overexpansion, political corruption, a widening gap between rich and poor, a cultural belief that Rome's greatness was eternal, untouchable. Historians debate the details, but almost all agree on one thing. Rome didn't collapse when it was weak. It collapsed when it believed it was strong. Civilizations, like people, rarely fall when they're starving. They fall when they're full, because confidence becomes complacency. Complacency becomes decay, and decay becomes collapse. Rome didn't notice the cracks until the light had already slipped through. 2. The Maya. When knowledge becomes fragile. In the 8th and 9th centuries, the Maya built one of the world's most advanced societies. Astronomy, mathematics, agriculture, architecture. They charted the stars with precision modern scientists still admire. But suddenly, almost mysteriously, major cities were abandoned. Temples left unfinished, stone roads overgrown, towers that once mapped the heavens swallowed by jungle. Why? Droughts, war, overpopulation, ecological collapse, all are possibilities. None tell the full story. But one insight stands out. The Maya elite kept expanding, building, and consuming, even as their environment grew weaker. They didn't recognize the fragility beneath their accomplishments. Their knowledge was extraordinary. But knowledge is useless if a society refuses to adapt when the world changes. The Maya didn't collapse because they lacked intelligence. They collapsed because they trusted their success too deeply to imagine failure. In other words, their greatness blinded them. 3. The Tang dynasty. The weight of a golden age. The Tang dynasty is often regarded as one of the most brilliant eras in Chinese history. Poetry, art, diplomacy, trade, urban planning, science, everything flourished. Chang'an was the beating heart of the world, a city of 1 million people. But underneath the cultural renaissance was a tension, a system growing too large, too fast, too confident. The An Lushan rebellion tore through the empire. A single general's revolt spiraled into a catastrophe that killed millions and fractured the dynasty permanently. The Tang collapse was not the fall of a weak state. It was the shattering of a society at its creative, political, and economic height. Why? Because golden ages have shadows. The more radiant the culture, the more fragile its balance becomes. A single shock can unravel everything. Greatness is heavy, and the Tang dynasty eventually became too heavy to hold itself upright. 4. The Ottoman Empire, the slow collapse of pride. Empires rarely notice their own decline. For the Ottomans, decline looked like stability. They still held vast territory, They still had a strong army. They still produced brilliant scholars and craftsmen. But something subtle was happening. Innovation slowed. Reforms stalled. Institutions decayed quietly behind the walls of palaces. The Ottomans called themselves the Eternal Empire. But no empire is eternal. The collapse wasn't sudden, but a slow, grinding erosion of adaptability. Empire is not undone by enemies. It is undone by refusal to evolve. And when the world shifted, the Ottomans didn't shift with it. The world moved forward. They stayed still. Standing still is just another kind of falling. 5. The pattern hidden in plain sight. Different civilizations, different centuries, different geographies, different cultures. Yet the same pattern appears again and again. A rise fueled by hunger, unity, and innovation. A golden age of abundance and confidence. A peak where the system becomes too complex to sustain. A slow erosion of resilience. A moment of shock, war, climate, economics, or leadership failure. A collapse that seems sudden but was actually centuries in the making. This isn't a story about ancient worlds. It's a story about human nature. Civilizations collapse for many reasons. But there's one root cause that appears in every case. Success makes us forget what created success. When we rise, we attribute it to our brilliance. When we peak, we assume the peak will last forever. But every peak hides a truth. You cannot stay at the top of the mountain without constant effort and constant humility. Most civilizations forget that, which leads us to the question that matters most. The question is, are we next? Every civilization before us believed it was different. They believed their technology made them invincible. Their wealth made them stable. Their institutions made them eternal. Their culture made them immune to collapse. Look around today. We have global trade, the internet, AI, modern medicine, billion-person networks, instant communication, machines that reach into space. We are more powerful than any civilization in history, but we are also more fragile. Supply chains that break easily, political polarization, rising inequality, declining trust in institutions, resource strain, climate instability, social fractures, information overload, technologies evolving faster than societies can adapt. We are Rome with algorithms, the Maya with satellites, the Tang dynasty with nuclear power. The story is old, the tools are new. The question remains, is this the moment when we correct our path, or the moment we quietly begin our decline without noticing? Civilizations rarely collapse from a single blow. They collapse from 1,000 small cuts, ignored for too long. Are we ignoring ours? Maybe the real lesson isn't doom. Maybe it's humility. Civilizations rise not because they are destined to, but because people build them. Civilizations fall not because collapse is inevitable, but because people stop tending to what matters. History does not repeat itself, but human nature does. And that means the story of collapse isn't a prophecy, it's a mirror. Rome shows us what complacency can do. The Maya show us what happens when we ignore the environment around us. The Tang show us how fragile golden ages can be. The Ottomans show us the cost of resisting change. The question facing us is simple. Will we learn from the patterns, or will we become another chapter in the long, tragic rhythm of rise and fall? Because the truth is this: civilizations don't collapse. People let them collapse. And if our society falls one day, it won't be because of a single event. It will be because we believed, like Rome, like the Maya, like all before, that we were too great to fail. The warning signs are not predictions. They are invitations to stay curious, to stay adaptable, to stay humble, to build wisely, to question deeply, to remember that greatness requires constant maintenance. We are living in a moment of extraordinary power, a peak our ancestors couldn't imagine. The end of a civilization is never predetermined, but neither is its survival. Maybe the real question isn't, Are we next? Maybe it's, what will we choose to do now that we know the pattern? Civilizations rise when people believe the future can be better. They collapse when people stop believing it's worth building. The future is still in our hands, but only if we take the warning seriously. This is our peak. This is our moment. This is our chance to prove that unlike the civilizations before us, we are not blinded by our own success, but awakened by their mistakes. The rise and fall of civilizations is not a story of destiny. It is a story of choices, and the choices we make today will decide whether we become the next great collapse, or the first civilization in history to rise without falling. If this journey made you think, give it a like, share it with someone who asks big questions, and subscribe to Timeless Questions channel, where philosophy meets history and the search for truth never ends.